Hamas refuses to disarm, insisting it would run Gaza during the interim period. Public executions, checkpoints, and armed patrols mark their control, even as US mediators scrambled. Trump's peace plan stumbles, Netanyahu demands compliance, and families wait for bodies still trapped in Gaza's tunnels. Power, promises, and hostages, all in the balance. Hamas intends to maintain security control in Gaza during an interim period. A senior Hamas official told Reuters in an exclusive interview in Doha. He also added that he could not commit to the group disarming, positions that reflect the difficulties facing US plans to secure an end to the war. Hamas Political Bureau member Mohammed Nazzal also said the group was ready for a ceasefire of up to 5 years to rebuild devastated Gaza, with guarantees for what happens afterwards depending on Palestinians being given horizons and hope for statehood.
How long a ceasefire does Hamas want?
At least Hamas is prepared for a truce of 3 to 5 years.
You know, some might say that would give Hamas enough time to rearm and to reorganize and to begin to be ready to fight Israel again. Is that a goal?
The goal isn't to prepare for a future war. The goal is that we want a truce during which we can rebuild the Gaza Strip. Because the Gaza Strip needs at least 5 years to rebuild. I mean, I don't want to say more or less than that, but this is the average. We want the Palestinian people to catch their breath, and certainly during this period there is a willingness to discuss the future. The truce periods that always occur between the warring parties are given to 2 parties, not just 1 party.
When asked about the second phase of the ceasefire and Hamas's disarmament, Nazzal said,
I cannot answer with a yes or no. Frankly, it depends on the nature of the project. The disarmament project you are talking about, what does it mean? To whom will the weapons be handed over? Why are the weapons being handed over? Well, there is a question. Will the Israelis hand over the nuclear weapons inside the Zionist entity? Why is Iran being asked to hand over the nuclear weapon, or the destruction of the nuclear weapon? And Israel, the Zionist entity, is not being asked to destroy the nuclear weapons it possesses.
Nazzal even defended the group's crackdown in Gaza, where it carried out public executions on October 13th.
First, there is an understanding of the presence of Hamas on the ground. Who will protect the trucks from thieves and armed gangs? Who will protect people's lives? There are gangs present. What is strange is that at a time when we find Arab and Islamic voices objecting to the course Hamas took after the withdrawal of the occupation forces, we find that US President Trump yesterday expressed understanding for Hamas confrontation with the armed gangs, which are gangs of evil, and that is how US President Trump described them. So this is a transitional phase. Civilly, there will be a technocratic administration, as I said. On the ground, Hamas will be present. After the transitional phase, our opinion is that it is necessary to go to general elections.
He also said that there were always exceptional measures during war, and those executed were criminals guilty of killing. While Hamas has broadly expressed these views before, the timing of Nazzal's comments demonstrates the major obstacles obstructing efforts to cement a full end to the war in Gaza, days after the first phase of the ceasefire was agreed. They point to big gaps between Hamas's positions and US President Donald Trump's plan for Gaza, ahead of negotiations expected to address Hamas's weapons and how Gaza is governed. When asked for comment on Nazzal's remarks, the Israeli Prime Minister's office said Israel was committed to the ceasefire agreement and continued to uphold and fulfill its side of the plan.
Hamas is supposed to release all hostages in stage 1. It is not. Hamas knows where the bodies of our hostages are. Hamas are to be disarmed under this agreement. No ifs, no buts. They have not. Hamas needs to adhere to the 20-point plan. They are running out of time.
Trump's September 29th plan called for Hamas to immediately return all hostages before committing to disarmament and ceding governance of Gaza to a technocratic committee overseen by an international transitional body. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu supported the plan, saying it would dismantle Hamas's military capabilities, end its political rule, and ensure that Gaza would never again pose a threat to Israel. As the Gaza ceasefire deal hangs in the balance, a statement issued by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office said that Israel is determined, committed, and working tirelessly to bring back all of the dead hostages for burial, adding that Hamas is required to fulfill its commitments to the mediators and return them as part of the implementation of the agreement. The statement came after military representatives notified the family of Eliyahu Margalit that his body was returned to Israel by Hamas, following his identification by forensic experts. The Prime Minister's office added that Hamas must abide by the deal and return the remains of the other 18 slain hostages still held in Gaza. However, a senior political bureau member of Hamas pointed to technical issues thwarting the return of the bodies while talking to Reuters on October 17th.
There's a technical and logistical problem regarding the bodies. If Hamas has released the living, why does it want to keep the dead? Hamas has no interest in keeping the bodies. There is a logistical problem and everyone is working to solve it. How? There is a suggestion that some technically advanced countries could participate in the search.
Meanwhile, the IDF says that it continues to devote all efforts to the return of the fallen hostages and is preparing for the continued implementation of the agreement. Hamas is required to fulfill its part of the agreement and make every necessary effort to return the fallen hostages to their families for proper burial. Meanwhile, US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff told CBS's 60 Minutes in a joint interview with Kushner, which will air on October 19th, that he felt betrayed by the Israeli strike on Doha.
I think both Jared and I just feel we felt a little bit betrayed. It had a metastasizing effect because the Qataris were critical to the negotiation, as were the Egyptians and the Turks. We had lost the confidence of the Qataris. And so Hamas went underground, and it was very, very difficult to get to them.
Kushner also said that the strike led Trump to realize that it was time to be very strong and stop them from doing things that he felt were not in their long-term interests.